Hello everybody, I'm Hannah, and today we're going to be talking about every single book I read in the month of December. So if you are new here, I like to kick these off with going over a couple of stats from my reading month. So in December, which is our very last month of 2025, which is crazy, I read 17 books, which is exactly on target for what I shoot to read every month. The 17 books comes from an ultimate goal of 200 books for the year, which I think I've only ever hit one time. This year in 2025, I hit, 189 books, and the year before that, it was 191. So I think really like a doable number for me is 190. I think that if I was reading more of what I wanted to be reading, that number would actually probably come down because I tend to really like thick fantasy books that take a lot longer to get into. Some stats. I will put these up here. A lot of these are coming from the Storygraph, which is one of my favorite book tracking apps / websites. So first we'll get into moods. I had mostly emotional reads followed by dark and adventurous, then tense, then lighthearted and hopeful, then reflective and mysterious, then sad, inspiring, and funny. I've been towards the end of 2025 getting into my poetry era again, and so I feel like there's some weird moods that pop up that are not stereotypically part of like a fantasy or a romantasy read, which is the majority of my reading. Next up is paced. I have 36% fast and 64% medium. I have said it before, but I am not a slow-paced kind of girl. So if a slow-paced book ever shows up in here, probably it was poetry or maybe a nonfiction read. I don't even know if they pace those on Storygraph. I do have a goal to be reading some more nonfiction in 2026. Not like that I've made it an official goal, but more just like want to start kind of a mental hygiene practice where I do a devotion, read some of my Bible, get into a chapter of a nonfiction book, could be faith or leadership based, or maybe not. And so I think that number will naturally come up more than it was last year, but that was really off track for the pace conversation. Fast and medium are my paces. For page numbers, I had 41% under 300, 47% between 300 and 499, and then 12% 500 plus. This is pretty standard, I feel like, if not a little less usually on the under 300 and a little more on the over 500. For fiction or nonfiction, I had 12% nonfiction and 88% fiction. Genres, mostly fantasy and romance, pretty standard, followed by young adult, then poetry, historical, contemporary, and then one each for dystopian, LGBTQIA+, magical realism, self-help, science fiction, and biography. For format, I had 5,488 pages overall with about 7.5 hours of audio time. I had 29% digital reads, 6% audio, and 65% print. That one audiobook is, I listened to Lauren Roberts' new novella that came out. I think it's called Fearful. Spoiler alert, hated it, but we'll get into that. My average rating was 3.76. I had 5 stars, 6 4 stars, 3 3 stars, and 3 2 stars. This is pretty high on the 2-star category for me. And I'm pretty high on 5-star too, but one of those was a reread, which we'll get into. And then I'm going to get into this little graphic, which I make by myself in my page where I track on my Notion. So my total TBR is now at 759 books. I did not unhaul any books due to who I am as a person. And I read 4 arcs and I read 13 books, which is 7 off the shelf, 1 reread, and 6 from the library. And then I acquired 46 books this month, which is a lot. Every year my husband does a bookish advent calendar for me, so I have 25 books from that, plus all of my gifted Christmas books, a lot of birthday books from friends since my birthday is very early in January. I also kept getting book subscription boxes and things, so it was a big acquisition month, but it always is. Let's get into the books themselves. So a lot of these are arcs or library books that are already returned. So if that's the case, you will get the nice virtual cover right here. First up is Half Bad by Sally Green. This was a library book. This is the start in a trilogy. Thought it was more fantasy based. I think it's technically young adult, but the themes in here are very far from young adult. There was a Netflix adaptation made off of this book, which I didn't know about until after I read it, but I believe it was called Bastard and the Devil Himself or something like that. It was discontinued. Didn't hate this book, but I don't think I'll be continuing this series. A lot of it seemed like trauma porn, honestly. It's supposed to be about these two warring magic clans, the White Witches and the Black Witches. The White Witches are kind of using magic for good and the Black Witches are allegedly not, even though we kind of learn that maybe that's not really the case. Our main character, Nathan, is the son, the bastard son, of the most notorious Black Witch that exists, and he has no idea who his mom is. And so even though he's not a black witch himself, he's kind of persecuted by like the Council of White Witches, and he has a really hard life growing up, and you're kind of seeing him come into his power as a late teen. And I think that's the best way I can describe it without giving you too much. But yeah, it was a hard book to read. I didn't really enjoy it. I think Sally Green has great writing, and I would definitely read something else by her, but the story itself wasn't something that interested me enough to want to keep going. And that's the beauty of library books. You don't have to. Next up was my number one book of this entire year, and definitely of this month, which is Morning Star by Pierce Brown. This is the final book in the first Red Rising trilogy. It was so good. I cried so hard in this book. It's one of those that you know it's going to be a 5-star while you're reading it, and I love that feeling. This is not one that I'm going to give you a lot of information about because it is the third in a series, but it is really kind of the payoff that we've been leading up towards ever since the first few pages of Red Rising, and I loved it. I especially loved the epilogue, and I think I am just such a big fan of this series, and I can't wait to keep going with it. 5 stars, if that wasn't obvious. Next up, I had one of the Christmas books I read this season, which is Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison. I also gave this one 5 stars. I think this is probably to date my favorite Christmas book that I've ever read. This is a really cute story. It takes place on a Christmas tree farm. It's a friends to lovers trope, which is not something that I usually enjoy, but I feel like B.K. Borison writes in such a way that you are gripped and the tension is extremely present without being annoying, which I think is a really hard line to walk, and she does a great job with it. But the whole thing just feels cozy and whimsical. The stakes are pretty low, but they feel real, and it felt like a Christmas episode of Gilmore Girls in book. Next up, I read Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Peppernell. This is one of her first poetry books, I think. Courtney Peppernell has a really interesting way of writing poetry in that it feels very prose-like and not very poetic. So it's easy to follow, and the themes are really cool, but I think if you're looking for something where you're hunting more for the meaning yourself instead of being given to it, instead of having it given to you, I think this might be kind of a frustrating poetry experience for you because it does feel very spoon-feedy. And I gave this one 4 stars. I still really liked it, just not my favorite from this poet. Next up, we've got Comfort and Joy by Kristen Hanna. This was my buddy read pick for the book club that I run with my friends Maddie and Faye, and this is another Christmas book. I love Kristen Hanna, so I was expecting great things from this book, and I am sad to report this is my least favorite Kristen Hanna book to date. I gave it 2 stars, which is pretty low. Basically, I just found this entire thing absurd. It starts off with our main character walking in on her husband and her sister in the throes of an affair, and she leaves, and as she is like running away, her sister tells her that she's pregnant, and then her plane crashes. And so then we're getting this whole like what happens after the plane crash story, which ends up being also very absurd. That's Comfort and Joy. And the main character's name is Joy. I don't really know. It's not a good Christmas book. I don't think I recommend it. I haven't seen a single person give a positive review of the people that I follow and trust. So I would skip this one, even if you're a Kristen Hanna fan. If you feel called to it, don't let me dissuade you. Next up, we've got The Sword and the Dagger by Robert Cochran. Robert Cochran is one of the writers and producers of the show 24, which I have not seen, but I know a lot of people who absolutely love it. And you can really tell that he has great storytelling ability in this book. I went into it thinking that it was a YA fantasy for some reason. It's not fantasy. It is a historical fiction novel about the Crusades time. So you've got a prince and a princess of Tripoli and Antioch. This is during the time of Genghis Khan, and they're basically betrothed, but they hate each other, and they end up going on this quest, and there's a lot of tension between the Christians and the Muslims that live in the area. There's a Muslim assassin that's hired to kill the princess of Antioch. It was a really interesting book in a time period that I don't often read things set in. The relationship between the three of them, it's very found family-esque. Lots of adventure, lots of very like high stakes situations, and I just thought it was a great read. So I highly recommend this one if you're looking for something a little bit out of the norm, perhaps. And I gave this one 4 stars. Next up, we've got Fearful by Lauren Roberts. After Reckless, have not enjoyed a single book in this series, but I am a completionist when I get this far into it, so I just wanted to read Fearful to kind of be done with it and feel like I put a bow on that series and can let it rest. Wish that I wouldn't have. I don't think that this gave us any information that was helpful as a reader to have. It didn't give me any closure. Kit was one of my favorite characters in the first 2 books, and I think Fearless just completely destroyed all character character development he had, and it was really upsetting to see. And this novella focuses a lot on his like gradual descent into like madness almost, which is again really disheartening to read, and I just didn't think it was interesting. And I feel like if you're gonna write a novella, it should at least be about something that I want information about, which even though I didn't like Powerful about Adina and Mac, I think was his name, like it at least gave me something else and characters I could root for, even though it ended really tragically. Whereas Fearful, I just kind of felt like this is more of the same, and we basically got everything that happened here from Fearless, so why are we prolonging this? Not my favorite. I wish I hadn't read it. I gave it 2 stars. Next up, we've got Heir of Illusion by Madeline Taylor. I read this as an arc. This comes out, I believe, in February. This is one of my favorite arcs, I think, that I read all year, which is crazy because I gave it 5 stars and I honestly don't remember that much about it now. But if you're a romantasy girly, you should pick this up. There's I think she's called I forget what magic she is. He's called a Reaper, and it's this very like enemies to lovers, who did this to you kind of dynamic, which is really fun to read, and I think it's unique. This is, I think, her traditionally published version. Heir of Illusion itself has been out already for a while, so I've seen a lot of people read it and respond really well to it. I would recommend it. I think you should give this one a shot. It's fun in the sense that it is full of tropes, but they're fun tropes, so you will have a good time reading this book. Next up, we've got one that's been on my shelf for a long time. This is another Christmas book. This is The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. This is a dark reimagining of the Nutcracker story. Don't know if I've talked about this on the channel before, but I did ballet and competitive Irish dancing when I was younger, and I did a Nutcracker every single year. I've danced just about every role that you can have in the Nutcracker, including Clara twice. So the story of the Nutcracker is very near and dear to my heart. This butchered it. This was like if Tim Burton got a hold of the Nutcracker and just ripped it to shreds, I think. And it starts with there being, the main character is not in fact Clara, but her sister, who does not exist canonically, named Natalia. And Natalia is kind of a jerk. I was gonna use another word, but we'll keep it family friendly around here. Basically, she sees Clara as this golden girl that is vapid and vain, and all good things happen to her and nothing good ever happens to Natalia. I think there is some truth to that with the character that Clara plays in here, and because of that, Natalia basically works in league with the Sugar Plum Fairy, who is evil, to destroy Clara's life. I couldn't get on board with it, the whole thing, and it made the things that feel so sweet and dreamlike and whimsical in Nutcracker feel so sickening and dark and suspicious, and I just didn't want that for one of my favorite Christmas stories. So I did not enjoy this one. I gave it 3 stars because I think it did a good job for what it is. I just didn't like what it is. Anything that's Nutcracker related, I'm going to want to read because I love Nutcracker. So it's kind of my fault, right? It's not like it was hiding the ball about what it is, which is a dark reimagining of the Nutcracker, and boy was it reimagined and boy was it dark. So I guess 5 stars for that, but 3 stars for my personal enjoyment. I will probably be giving this book away and won't likely be recommending it to people. If it sounds so far based on what I've described as something that you would like, I think you probably would. Because if I heard someone describe it that way, I think that I would know that that was not a book for me, but I read it anyway. So that's on me. Next up, we've got Once and Again by Rebecca Searle. This is an arc that I read. This comes out March 10th. I am a hit or miss with Rebecca Searle. I've read a couple of her books. Some of them I've absolutely loved, and others of them I've absolutely hated, and some of them are right there in the middle. This is a middling to good book of hers, I think. The story of a group of women in kind of their maternal family line that each get a ticket, and that ticket allows them to redo one decision in life one time. And so the story is basically how our main character and then her mother and her grandmother have used these tickets throughout their lifetimes. And it's really interesting. I really like the premise. I sometimes don't do well with unexplained magical realism, but I think in Rebecca Searle's works, I've learned that you just kind of have to go with it. And she's similar to Ashley Poston in that way, where I feel like if you can suspend your belief and just enjoy it for what it is, then you'll have a good time. I think her writing is really beautiful. I think you will like this one. I think you will find find the characters to be very frustrating, but that is the point. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I gave this one 4 stars and I did really enjoy it. Next up, we've got Poems and Prayers. This is Matthew McConaughey's new book. It's not so much a memoir as it is just a reflection and his commentary on various pieces of poetry that he's written and prayers he's prayed. I love Matthew McConaughey. I really loved Green Lights and I'm a big poetry girl, so I thought this was perfect for me. It was really interesting to see his reflections, his thoughts, his creative process, all of the things that really have informed his spirituality and belief system come together in this way that felt really raw and earthy and honest. And I think it's hard to find anyone in Hollywood that's able to write with that level of authenticity without having to throw in a lot of like gimmicks or qualifiers or anything like that. I think he's just very real about his life and the opportunities he's had and how those have impacted him. The only other person where I've read a memoir that strikes with the same level of heart and clarity is Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died. And I know she's coming out with her first fiction book. She might have already, and I'm interested to see how that goes. But I really liked this one. I gave it 4 stars. I don't think that it hit me the same as Green Lights did, but I still really liked it. Next up, we've got The Debtor's Game by Isabel Mongo. This is an arc. I believe it comes out in March. I think it's March 3rd that it comes out. I gotta be so real with you guys. I gave this one 2 stars. It might have been a 1 star. I kept waiting for something to happen and it just didn't. This whole premise is super interesting. Basically, it's that there are the kind of elite people and then there's they had a specific name, but the non-elite people, and all of the non-elite people are indebted in some way to the elites, and they have these tattoos that depict their debts, and so their whole lives are about erasing these debts so that they can move on and do better things essentially. And it's basically a system in which the rich get rich and the poor get poor. It was really frustrating because I feel like you could do so much with a premise like that, and I feel like this author just didn't, and the plot kind of languished and the same thing happened over and over again. You get a little bit of this like Stockholm syndrome because the main character is kind of in love with like her boss / her main debtor, and I didn't like it. I wanted to, but I don't think the plane landed. So if this sounds like something that you would be interested in, I think pick it up, see how it goes. But for me, not my cup of tea. Next up, I read Roots of Darkness by Demi Winters. This is Hecla's novella. This is supposed to take place in between Kingdom of Claw and Dawn of the North, which Dawn of the North is her 3rd installment of the Ashen series, and it comes out in March. So Roots of Darkness, I was kind of reading. I have an arc of Dawn of the North, so I get to jump into that. Actually, I think Dawn of the North comes out in February, so I think I lied to you. But I loved Hecla. I loved her story, and seeing this little novella that's focused specifically on her, I think gave me kind of a new soft spot for her. I would really recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. I had a great time reading it. It should not be read until after Kingdom of Claw. Demi Winters has said that you should read it before Dawn of the North, so just be careful placement wise, but I really enjoyed it, and I think if you liked The Road of Bones and Kingdom of Claw so far, you will really enjoy Roots of Darkness. We've got Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. This is another Christmas read. I was pretty on my Christmas read game this holiday season. This is basically the Ghost of Christmas Past Christmas Carol reimagining, and I thought it was really cute. I feel like everybody's talked this book to death, so I won't say too much more about it. I did give it 4 stars. I didn't think it was B.K. Borison's best. I think that honor goes to Lovelight Farms for me so far, especially in terms of Christmas books, but this was really cute. I think it has enough of a deeper subplot to keep you interested and pull you in, but still feel like you're not just reading a fluffy romance with 0 substance. I really enjoyed this one. I have a very similar relationship with my aunt that Harriet does in this book, including the family dynamic. And so I connected to Harriet a lot as a character for that reason. If I didn't have that, I think that this probably would have been a 3 star for me. But again, it's not bad. I think it's really cute. If you're looking for a good Christmas romance and you don't have this one on your shelf yet, I would recommend it. And I skipped this book in my order, but I also reread A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 4th book in the ACOTAR series. It's just a little cute novella. I'm so glad that I read it this time of year because this takes place at winter solstice, which is December 21st. So very much the Christmas novella of ACOTAR. This completes my ACOTAR, my whole Sarah J. Maas verse reread that I've been doing this year. I've been reading a book a month. I started with Throne of Glass and then now did ACOTAR. I'm ending with this book because I'm not going to carry A Court of Silver Flames into January, and I don't plan on doing a reread of the Crescent City books until the next one is announced. announced. So this is it. And it was so sweet to see this chapter closed out for them. I've reread it quite a few times, so this is not my first rodeo with A Court of Frost and Starlight, but I do recommend reading it. I know people hate on it, but I think it's perfect for being exactly what it is, which is a sweet little Christmas romance. Very last book. I am not going to go into huge detail with this because my and my best friend Bree's new podcast, Chapter Chats, premieres on Tuesday. We are going to be getting into this book in detail in one of our future episodes because it is our first book club pick, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. This is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. I feel like this book made big waves when it came out last winter, and I have put it off for whatever reason. I really enjoyed it. This is one of my favorite examples, I think now, of a love triangle that's done really well. Historically, I have been known to say that I love love triangles, but I think bad love triangles are ruining love triangles for everybody else. This is a good love triangle. I will get into this obviously more on that episode, so tune in for that if you want to. If I didn't have Morningstar, I think this would be my favorite book of the month. And that is everything that I read in December. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're still here, feel free to drop an emoji so I know you stayed all the way through. I hope I see you in the next video. Have a great week and go read something good. Bye.